So we can be influenced by people around us, and this is all we get in the West so far. And what there is there's these other two layers that have a profound influence on us as well, but it's more unconscious. It's not like a room full of people telling you something. This comes from a very deep subconscious part of our life, and this is where the shamans intervene. They know that it's powerful to intervene at these deeper layers that are further upstream, so to speak. So the third layer is the mythic, and the mythic layer are those old stories, the old religious, cultural, familial, personal stories that are like the air we breathe. We don't really think about them, and of course in the Western culture, these are the stories that are that are all over the world, that come primarily from our oldest texts, like the biblical texts, for example. And getting back to the Karo as an example, the Karo had a mythology of origin that was based on the notion that everything is born from the feminine, because if you look around in nature, it's the feminine gives birth to everything. Nowhere does the masculine give birth. So they knew that their bodies arose from the earth, the Pachamama, because that is where the molecules and the atoms come from as you eat your food and so on, and your bodies grow. And they knew that all of nature seemed to conspire to improve their quality of life. They knew that they got wonderful things from the trees and the stones and the mountains and the animals, and that it seemed to work for them. And they could call on the rain, and the rain would come. So they live in this way, in this sense of ask and it is given, right from the start. And so their myth was based on this feminine mythology. Their story was based on the feminine mythology, and they knew that the creation was supportive of them. So it was like living in the garden still, and they knew that creation was participatory, that there was no greater act of love or power than to ask and receive. And so 500 years ago when they read their prophecy, because if you're in touch with nature, you can read the signs, you can kind of see what's happening. They could see that these half men, half beasts were coming with skins of steel and thunder sticks to turn their world upside down. They call it the Pachakuti in Quechua. And what it meant was, of course, that it was the worldviews, it was the mythologies, because the Spanish ended up coming and showing up on horseback, which was the half man, half beast, because they'd never seen anybody riding an animal before. And they knew, and they told them, look, it says here, page 3, that you've been kicked out of the garden, that you no longer live in harmony. It's thorns and thistles, and the sweat of your brow, and that it was woman's fault that we got kicked out, and that it's the feminine that was born from the masculine, Adam's rib. And so their story was one of a sort of an antagonistic relationship with the feminine in general. And that creation was finished on the 6th day, and that there was nothing you could do about it. Too bad, closed. If you don't have any oil or enough oil or food or water, you have to get it from your neighbor, which means you probably have to go to war. So it was a sort of warrior, masculine-based mythology. And the Karo knew that probably wouldn't work. In a very practical sense, if you create an antagonistic relationship with the feminine, your body, everything from the neck down, and with all of nature, that it would eventually lead to disease and global warming and environmental disaster, and it just wouldn't work very well. So they left. They went to 18,000 feet in the Andes so that they could hold on to those original feminine myths. And then 60 years ago, they read their prophecy again, and it said, the Pachakuti's happening again. The world is going to be turned right side up. The feminine will be valued again and brought back into power. And women, of course, would begin to come back into power, receive equal pay, and things like this. But they knew that it would be the round eyes from the north that would lead it, in their words, because there was only 600 of them left. There was only so many other native cultures who still were willing to carry the medicine to the modern Western world, if you will, after what we had done to them. And so they knew that those who were called to do it would need to be taught, and to bring this healing back, to bring this feminine way back, and to heal the old wounds of the masculine warrior. And so the mythology is very important, and we have our own personal myths like no pain, no gain, or just these these family things like the hero archetype, you know, where you have to martyr yourself. And there's just so many different sort of underlying mythologies, and it doesn't matter if we can't think about them or talk about them. That's not how we address the mythic. That's psychotherapy. So it's not enough to tell you that you're worthy now to be loved and to be healthy. You'll get that and go, of course. Or if you're a woman, to have equal pay and be respected. It's like, of course. But to change it on the mythic, we have to address that in a different way, which is usually through images and symbols, ritual and ceremony. So if you went to a Navajo medicine woman, for example, and you told her, all this stuff is going on in my life. I have this heart condition, I have this funky relationship, I have this job I don't like, or I've been abused, or whatever your story might be. What she would do on the desert floor is create a sand painting with colored sand that would be an intricate depiction of your story. And then at some point, that picture becomes your life. It taps into the mythic, and all she needs to do is make a change in the sand painting, and it changes in your life. So the Navajo medicine woman will make this sand painting that depicts your life, and then she just makes the change in the sand painting. She will move out that heart condition. She'll bring in the better relationship. She'll bring in the better health. And then that actually has an influence on the rest of your layers. And so it's extremely powerful. It's a little embarrassing to the Western masculine who just wants to go out and kill it. But it's very, very powerful. So it's ritual and symbols, it's altars, it's ceremony, it's fire ceremonies, it's those types of things. And so when I work with people, I usually give them their own mandala to do as homework. Because what I do typically is we'll work on the energetic layer, which is the deepest layer, and it's the blueprint or template for the rest. And in the West we call it the soul, in the East it's called the aura and chakras. Every tradition has a different name for it in their language because everybody's got one. And it's who you are after this physical body's gone. It's who you've always been. And it's that part of you that tends to hold on to the pain, the trauma, the events that you weren't able to process in the moment, or your ancestors. And so ideally when that painful event happens, you process it, you work through the energy, and then you're over it, and you carry on and you're free of it. Just like when you eat food, you take in the physical food, you don't put it in your head and rationalize it. This steak, I'm going to get the proteins out of it and it'll serve. You don't put it in your heart and love it. You put it in your gut and you burn it, you process it. It's a combustion process. And the heavy part that you can't digest, you're not designed to digest, goes out the bottom of your body into the earth and becomes fertilizer, becomes mulched, it becomes turned into new life. And that's the cycle. That's the healthy cycle. But what we've been told now for 6,000 years is don't cry, don't get angry, I don't want to hear it, you're not worthy, suck it up, be strong, be the hero, be the martyr. And so we and our ancestors have been blocking the release of these heavy energies that have come from these emotional events that we rationalized, or we just sucked it up. We didn't cry or scream or yell like we really wanted to. We didn't process it at the gut level. If we were able to process all these events at the gut level, then the heavy energy would go out our first chakra into the earth and would be used as fertilizer, and we would not carry it forward. But instead, it's built up in our chakras, it's dulled our aura, it's made it so they're not painting halos around us, we're not manifesting instantly and healing instantly like we should be able to in our true nature. And so we've carried these imprints with us, and they become the things that then repeat over and over. They inform the same myths and the same beliefs and the same experiences over and over. So you might be working on version 30 of some original wound that you or your ancestors experienced lifetimes ago or generations ago. And this work is designed to go directly, shamans go directly to that energetic layer and remove those energies at that source so that they're no longer informing you, so that who you are today and what you're experiencing is not a result of what happened 20 years ago or 20 lifetimes ago or 20 generations ago, but it's instead what you're wanting and desiring in the moment and able to ask and receive for freely.